next on Power Fueled Living.
That was so good, Maggie. Those were some very good tips. Wow. You know, I want to talk about the 7 types of intimacy, but I want to ask you, do you remember watching your family of origin, watching your parents interact with each other? Maybe your mom and dad interacted. Maybe your mom had a boyfriend. Maybe your dad had a girlfriend. But do you remember watching them interact and how you felt a lot of times? We have families of origin that we have learned from, that we have learned how to interact with that opposite sex. We've learned how to advance, how to pull back. We've learned how to connect, how to disconnect. And so when you think about that, I want you to think, am I performing the same way my parents performed? Am I doing the same things my mom did? Am I doing the same things my dad did? Am I talking to my wife the same way my dad did? Am I talking to my husband the same way my mom did? That is something that we need to consider, because if you are, and it was healthy, of course you want to continue. But if it was not healthy, you definitely want to reconsider your interaction with your spouse. And so we're going to talk about intimacy. Cultivating intimacy at any level involves being vulnerable and trustworthy. Did you hear me? Vulnerable and trustworthy. Intimacy is the foundation of any healthy and enduring relationship. Intimacy. And when we think about intimacy, a lot of times we think about physical intimacy. But I'm going to share 7 different kinds. So the first is emotional intimacy. How many of you have heard of emotional intimacy? Good, good, good. Emotional intimacy. Well, let me ask you this. Do you think that a relationship can survive without emotional intimacy? Not very well? What else? Who else? Who thinks it can? Who thinks it can't? Okay. A relationship can survive without emotional intimacy, but it won't be in the most loving form, right? People can grow old and still cohabitate without being emotionally intimate. It won't be a marriage, however, with a deep connection. It won't be a marriage with a deep passion. So emotional intimacy is about being able to share, listen to this, your deepest fears, your hopes, your dreams, and your feelings, but without fear of judgment. Can you guys share those things with your spouse without fear of judgment? Let me be more specific. Can you share your hopes with your partner? Do you feel comfortable sharing your hopes with your partner? Do you feel comfortable sharing your fears with your partner? Do you feel comfortable sharing your feelings with your partner? Now, feelings seems to be an issue for some people, for some marriages. Sharing your feelings can be an issue a lot for men. Men a lot of times don't feel comfortable sharing their feelings. A lot of times when a woman asks, when their spouse, and I'm going to use partner for the sake of spouse and all of that, whenever their partners say, hey, what's going on with you? Oh, nothing, I'm good. Oh, nothing, I'm good. It's all good. I'm fine. No, I'm good. But a woman normally wants to share with you how she feels. But, again, your family of origin may have shut that down in you. And so even women won't share how they feel. They'll walk around with a frown. They'll walk around in a daze. When you ask hey, what's going on? Oh, nothing, I'm fine. I'm good. It's all good. We have to be willing to share our feelings with our partner. You single people, are you willing to share all of those things with your partner? Do you even want to? I believe that we all desire intimacy with someone. We all want a partner to share our lives with. And so we have to consider that. Why is it important, do you think, to share these things without judgment? Without judgment. Why is that important? Somebody? Anybody? Right. When you feel safe, you want to share. When you feel safe, you want to share your hopes. You want to share your dreams. You want to share your feelings. Absolutely. And so, guys, I just encourage you to be willing to hear without judgment. So how can we continue to cultivate emotional intimacy? Well, we need to make regular time. And I know Maggie talked about this. She talked about how women have more words than men. And, when they come home from work, they're not really ready to talk. But having wholesome conversations is very important to cultivate emotional intimacy. Share your thoughts. Share your feelings openly. If you feel like let's just say Maggie, if you felt like your husband was shutting you down, how would you feel? You would get fleshy, right? And God tells us to walk by the Spirit so that we will not fulfill the lust of the flesh. So in that fleshiness, you would say something in defense of what he's doing that is mostly, I'm assuming, inappropriate or not a good thing for you to say to your husband. But how can you? When a partner is trying to shut you down from sharing your feelings, what is a good thing to do first? Yes. Prayer, prayer, prayer. Prayer and more prayer, yes. So, my husband and I, when we were younger, we married when I was 18 and he was 19. And so we have been together for a lot of our younger years. And there was some times when I would just look at him and I would walk away and I would pray, but it was not good prayers. I would be like, God, if you don't do something with him, I don't know what his pride. I'm to God, and then he would tell me to go fix him something to eat. Prayer though is the first thing that I always suggest you do, because prayer can calm you. You know, willpower is good, but willpower is not as effective as spiritual power. And so prayer is more effective than willpower, because I could look at him, but in my mind, I'm thinking about what I'm going to say next. But when I decide to pray, it switches. So prayer is very effective. And so another way to cultivate your emotional intelligence is to talk about things that are important to you both. When was the last time you guys had a conversation about something that was important to you both? When was the last time you had a conversation about anything? Are you talking about TV? What did you hear on the radio? What did you hear on social media that was interesting? Now, I know many of you probably look at social media vaguely, like me. I'm learning to cut back on social media. But what did you hear on the radio? What did you hear that was interesting? What did you hear about life that you guys could talk about? So you want to listen actively to your partner, and you want to experience what they're experiencing. Think about what they're talking about and have empathy, especially if they're talking about their feelings. The second intimacy is physical intimacy. Now, of course, like I said, when we think about intimacy, the first thing we normally think about is physical intimacy. But physical intimacy is not just about sexual closeness, okay? Physical intimacy encompasses a range of gestures, encompasses a range of holding hands, rubbing backs, squeezing shoulders, rubbing feet. Foot rubbing is foot rubbing, hey. Physical intimacy in a relationship is a way to express your love, not just for sex, but for comfort and affection. Comfort and affection. And so in order to cultivate that physical intimacy, you want to think about passion. So passion is a fuel for many emotionally intimate couples, okay? So think about passion as a bridge between emotional intimacy and physical intimacy. And couples have a great deal of passion when they are interacting with each other. It's almost like it's a fierceness. It's a love that when people see you, they like, oh, wow, they look good together. Or, oh, wow, they're in love. Have you ever thought about that? How do people see you in public? What do you think people think about you when you're in public? My husband loves to hold my hand. And I love, of course, I don't mind holding his hand too. But we hold hands often. And when we go in stores, we laugh and joke. And the people around us smile at us. And, I didn't think about that until we were laughing and joking at a register. And she was like, oh, you guys are so much fun. And I thought, oh, cool, okay, that's good. You want people to say those things about you. But you want to try to cultivate that physical intimacy. My husband just told me recently that he needed some more hugs. He needed some more affection. And I was like, babe, we're doing that, huh? What are you talking about? He was like, nope. Nope. Because even when we were first married, I would just go up and hug him and walk away. You know, my affection was very random, and so when you get used to that, you want it to continue.
Next on Power Fueled Living.
The things that we say matter, but sometimes we're brutally honest, right? Honest to a fault. So there's a balance there. The Bible says to speak the truth, but with love. And love is patient, and love is kind. Do we always do that? Not necessarily. So the second thing is, number one, you're going to speak the truth with love. Proverbs 15:1 says, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a hard word stirs up anger. You know, how many times do we just respond in our flesh? You know, well, I told you so. Or no, did I not say a million times? And you're like, that's no way to respond.
Power Fueled Living is a media outreach of Power Fueled Living Ministries. For more information, contact www.powerfueledliving.com. Power Fueled Living is funded by friends and partners like you. Thank you for your giving.